I'm about to do something that quite literally has broken F1 24. I'm going to try and get into the top 100 places in the world on an F1 24 time trial leaderboard by cheating. So the way to do this is by cutting off the final 3 corners of the Japanese Grand Prix track Suzuka. As you can see by the yellow line, this is the world record holder's telemetry through this section of corners, and to not invalidate, all you have to do is not re-enter the track. And if you don't do that before you hit the finish line, somehow the lap is uploaded to the leaderboard. By the way, that was the end of my first lap of this video, and I was now 42,598th in the world. And with my aim to be in the top 5,000 for day 1 and top 100 for the whole video, I knew that this whole challenge was not going to be easy. And my second lap of this challenge was actually my 6th attempt at going around this track. Going through the first double right-hander, you might not be able to tell that I have literally not driven on this track since this video, so the start of this challenge is going to be a bit of a mess. However, leaving the Dunlop curve, even with a pretty poor run, I managed to make up for a mistake on the previous lap, and by turn 8, I was 8/10ths up. Going through the Degners, unfortunately, I lost a little bit of time as I was just way too cautious leaving turn 9, but as we come up to turn 11, I knew that there was time to find on the exit of this corner. And I managed to find this time even by slightly running along the grass on the exit, but that was obviously just preparation for later in the lap. And as we fade into the final section of corners, I had managed to gain another 0.2 of a second. And by being even more committed than the last lap, because I knew how much more I could push on the grass and gravel, I had managed to double my improvement by the time I reached the finish line. On this lap, I gained 2.4 seconds worth of progress, and I was now into the top 21,000 places in the world, and I was so ready to keep learning this track. And I must have been learning pretty fast because I made a lot of progress very quickly, but of course I was still making some stupid mistakes. For example, forgetting the challenge that I was doing and breaking into the final 3 corners. Anyway, these improvements put me into the top 10,700 places in the world, but I knew that for day 1 I still had 1 improvement left in me. And I was absolutely spot on about this. Through sector 1 I'd actually lost a little bit of time, but after going through the Degners I'd managed to go from 800ths down to 800ths up. Coming into the turn 11 hairpin, I'd made a mistake on the previous lap, so I was just desperate to make sure that this time I took it clean. And thankfully I did exactly that. I had such a clean exit with great traction, which brought me to an entire second up. So we're actually going to speed all the way up to the final section of corners on this lap, because I managed to maintain the gain of 1 second that I had created through spoon curve and 130 up. Honestly, I was just so desperate to maintain this gain, as this could be absolutely huge for the challenge. And that is exactly what I did. Going through the grass and gravel, I maintained my almost a second worth of progress, but I did not know where this was going to put me in terms of the leaderboard position. 3,098th. I had broken my day 1 target by 1,002 places, which is an absolutely massive amount. And at this point in the challenge, I just could not wait for day 2, because I was really starting to believe that this video was actually going to be completable. So for day 2, my aim was initially to get within the top 1,000 drivers in the world. However, my first improvement of the second day absolutely blew my mind. And here is the start of this crazy lap. Going through the first 2 corners, at first I thought I took too tight of a racing line, but I was very wrong about this. As coming into the S's, I was now just over 2/10ths up. Going through the second of these 5 corners, I momentarily ran along the grass, although this didn't seem to cost me any time, and through the next few corners I was just absolutely dialed into the racetrack. But unfortunately, going through turn 9, I had a disastrous experience because I just turned in way too early, and this meant that I was now equal to the delta by turn 11. So we're now going to fade into 130R, where nothing had really changed, and I knew that I just had to fully send it over the grass and the gravel. And I did exactly that. I was so close to re-entering the track twice, which ended up gaining me so much time, and I knew that this was going to make me fly up the leaderboard, but I was not expecting to be comfortably already into the top 1,000 drivers in the world. And I'll be honest, I got a little bit excited at this point, as I instantly checked how far away I was from the top 100 in the world, which was a massive 1.8 seconds. But to be fair, there was over 8 attempts to find in the Degners if I could somehow match the unbelievable first sector that I had just had. And now more than ever, I firmly believe that I could complete this challenge, but first I wanted to get to my new goal, which was getting within a second of the top 100 lap time in day 2. And not too long after this, I was about to improve yet again, but this time in a very different way. Unsurprisingly, going through the first sector, I didn't make any progress, especially after a half spin leaving the Dunlop curve, but I knew that I could make up for this in the Degners and then push on after that. Coming into the double right-hander, I was 4.5 down, but I had a superb run, especially with a good exit out of turn 9, and I brought myself to a 10th up coming into the turn 11 hairpin. And I just could not stop improving, as leaving turn 11 I had an excellent run where I really tried to follow the world record holder Danny Bresley's racing line, and as we arrive in spoon curve I was now 3.5 up. Unfortunately though, I could not maintain this delta through these couple of corners, and as we speed up to the final couple of corners I will be leaving the tarmac now only a 10th up. And somehow, even with an unbelievable run on my previous personal best off of the track, I managed to improve on this again, and I was now 1.6 seconds away from a top 100 lap time. And I just did not stop making progress on this second day. After this, I made another half a second worth of progress over 2 more improvement laps. And I was getting so close to 1 second away from the top 100 lap time, but I knew that my current personal best was going to be so difficult to beat. And sadly, that was pretty much the case. I must have spent about 2 hours not being able to get out of the first sector whilst I was spinning, and I've got to be honest, I absolutely hate these curbs in the S's. They were literally just making me lose my mind over and over and over again. However, I was not about to give up. I had 30 minutes until I was going to call it a day, and I was desperate to complete my goal for this day, which only required 6/100ths worth of progress. And with only 5 minutes left before I had to call it a day, I did not know that I was about to light up this circuit. Going through the first 2 corners, I got brilliant rotation and eventually brilliant traction, which led to me being almost 1.5 tenths up by turn 3. After this was the S's section, and as per usual, I made a mistake where I thought that once again I was going to put the car in the barrier, but I just about held it together. And finishing the first sector, I would be a massive 1.8 tenths up. I pretty much maintained this gain to the turn 11 hairpin, so we'll speed up to there, and this corner is up there with the most important on the track, so I was desperate to make this count. And I did exactly that by once again following Danny Beresne's racing line. Who would have guessed that the world record holder knows exactly what he's doing? Anyway, it's now time for spoon curve, and I'll be honest, I was so lucky to maintain my gain to the delta going through here because momentarily my finger slipped off of the controller. And we are now on our way up to the final section of corners on this racetrack, and I was just desperate to make sure any sort of improvement that I had made would actually be maintained going through here. And I just did so much more than this. I managed to double my gain to the delta and make almost 6/10ths worth of progress, and well, I'll just let the rest of this clip play out. 156th. I was now just so close to my goal in terms of the leaderboard, but in terms of lap time, I had a long way to go. This was either going to require me making a few laps here and there worth of progress, or an absolutely mega lap to complete this challenge, where I would finally, after over an entire year of posting weekly videos, I would set a lap time in the top 100 drivers in the world. Yeah, so when I was voice recording that final part yesterday, I really thought that I was going to set one final lap that would complete this challenge. However, that was the opposite of what ended up happening. So after about 20 minutes of warming up, we're now on a lap where I was a quarter of a second down going down the back straight. And I was just thinking for practice I would complete this lap properly, almost certain that I would not improve. But by some absolute miracle, I managed to make a 1/10 of a second worth of progress, which was obviously brilliant, but this was nowhere near the best thing that happened on this lap. So as you can see by the track map, I've just set a purple sector 3, which you might think is normal considering I've just set a personal best lap time. But this means that I've just set a 3rd sector faster than the Danny Beresne Mercedes F1 esports driver. This was pretty ridiculous, and I now had all of the confidence in the world to keep pushing on and complete the challenge today. And not too long after this, as you can see, we're coming up to 130R, and I'm an absolutely massive 7.5 tenths up. This could be it. After 3 days, I was so confident that I was about to complete this video. And as we go off the track, I'd made a slight improvement to the delta. However, the worst possible thing was about to happen. I smashed into the polystyrene DRS board and then into the wall, which actually invalidated my lap time. But guess what lap time I set? A lap time that was exactly 1,000th of a second faster than what I needed to complete this challenge. However, of course, I was still keeping the faith, and I knew that this challenge was now definitely possible. And after this, I set another improvement. However, this was the amount of footage that I got from this lap. Yeah, I just love it when my recording software crashes. Anyway, I now needed a 1/3 of a second to complete the challenge, and I knew exactly what I had to do. I just didn't know if I really had the ability to do it.
This is it. This is the lap of the weekend.
I had done it. I set a lap time that was just under a tenth of a second faster than what I needed to do to complete the top 100 lap time by cheating F124 challenge. I was now 94th in the world and I was just so happy because this lap was absolutely perfect. Thank you all so much for watching and I will see you all next week, hopefully.